Well, we are recording right now. I am in conversation with Dr. Jeong-Hee Kim. Dr. Jeong-Hee Kim and I have known each other for some time, first at Kansas State University, and then we became great friends. And then I recommend her book in Narrative Inquiry to everyone. So if you haven't read it and you're a qualitative researcher, you're missing a huge chunk of qualitative research if you don't read Dr. Kim's Narrative Inquiry text. My students read it. It's a required text. They can't get through advanced data analysis and qualitative research without knowing narrative inquiry from Dr. Kim. So today we are talking for my class that's data representation and writing in qualitative research. So Dr. Kim, you're aware that we have students that come from various walks of life and with various career goals ahead of them. Some want to become scholars in academia. Some end up returning to their practitioner spaces and taking a role of more of a scholarly practitioner, and some go to industry as well. So in that context, some students are doing qualitative research because of the topic that they want to study is lending itself to qualitative inquiry. And in the process of doing this work, one of the places where they're often stuck is writing that chapter 4. They're often stuck at that because it's such a synthesis chapter. They have to figure out how they are seeing theory and their research question and their analytical framework and their methodological framework and still write a representative piece that is thick and rich and descriptive. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle for all of us, but certainly as people doing it for the first time, it's a struggle. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if you can think about the time that maybe the first time you had to do this work, and what were some of the ways you navigated it?
Actually, I just have an article that just got published this year in February, and that article it took me almost 2 years to get that published. So it was rejected by some journals, and I almost gave up on that article. But I persisted. Actually, it was co-authored by one of my colleagues in Korea. So what I did was that, it was a conceptual theoretical piece, but chapter 4, not chapter 4, but discussion section was really weak. That was the comments from the reviewers. So I was thinking, okay, what can I do to strengthen that discussion section, which is equivalent to chapter 4 of a dissertation. So what I did was I kept rereading the literature review section of the article and tried to be inspired by what other authors and scholars have said on the very topic that I was working on. Even though I did the literature review and I realized I have forgotten about what they really said, the details of what they said. So I revisited their articles again that I discussed in literature review. So that rereading of those articles that I discussed in the literature review really helped me better understand what is it I need to say in the discussion section. So after that, the discussion section was really strengthened, and I realized, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this earlier? We've written so many times, but we forget to go back to the review of the literature that we read and we thought about. So I started talking to my students because my students have that struggle, same struggle. How do we that? So they collected data and they have this using coding and categorizing, they do analysis, but then discussion section is really weak. So I told my students, okay, go back to your chapter 2. Reread what you wrote in chapter 2. Reread what other scholars have said in your topic. That will really inspire you to write chapter 4. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's my recipe for that.
We forget about chapter 2, We just forget because so many of the people that I know write their proposal defenses, writing the first, second, and the third chapter.
Right.
And then by the time they collect data and analyze, they're on 4. They write 5, they go back to 3. 2 is like probably the least looked at sometimes. At least I know for my students, often like they just look at 2 as unless I have new literature to add or tweak, they're not rereading 2 anymore, other than to make the point of what gap they fill in 5,
Yeah.
They're talking about
Yeah.
it then, but otherwise they're not engaging with 2 as closely as they would be engaging with 4 or 5 or even 1 they go back and change
One.
a few
Yeah.
things,
Right.
but 2 is probably the least attended one after defense,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
proposal defense.
I mean, there is a reason why we need to do an extensive literature review.
Right.
So that we can be well versed in our topic, right? But if we don't revisit chapter 2, why bother to do such an extensive review?
Yeah.
So we really need to go back there and so that our whole dissertation can be coherent.
Yes.
A lot of times I said like a dissertation is independent of each other, sometimes separate from each other, instead of being kind of interwoven together. The lack of coherence is very problematic, but we cannot make it coherent unless we go back and remember what we have said. So that we can be, sometimes I see that like the purpose of the research and research questions that students talked about in chapter 1 are different from the ones in chapter 3.
We have become different people. We have grown.
That is a simple mistake that can be avoided, right?
If the past me and the current me, not the same me. New cloning has happened.
Right. So we really have to go back to what we have written. I think because it takes so much time to write even one article, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of, it takes time. Let's say it takes 2 months or 3 months. So the section that you wrote 3 months ago, you forget about it. And then you try to write now, and even your writing style can be different, right? Because the mode you are in now, writing mode you are in now, is different from the writing mode you were in 3 months ago. So your writing style is very different. So unless you go back and reread what you wrote before, you cannot really make your document coherent and consistent.
One of the things that students have a problem with, and it comes probably squarely in your territory, is narrative writing. So whether it be, even if they're not doing a narrative study, even if they're doing like an inductive analysis and doing a thematic narrative, there are some narrative writing skills that they have to have for this to demonstrate depth and richness. Were you always familiar with how to write that way, or did you have to learn? How did you first come into narrative writing, and how did you teach yourself narrative writing?
Practice makes perfect.
Yes, I knew you'd say that. It's such an intense look. I knew you would say that.
I mean, really simple practice. I don't think I'm a good writer still, because every writing that I have to do is like a new beginning.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, really, you just have to keep writing and writing, and you need to be inspired by reading others' works. And I think reading is very, very important. So reading and writing, they go together. Writing cannot be improved without reading. And so, just keep writing. And I have to say that I don't have like that stellar publication record that Dr. Bhattacharya that I know has.
Not true.
But really, I mean, we have to keep writing.
That's true.
So don't be discouraged if you get a rejection letter, if you get really like a real tough critic from your advisor. It will make you stronger. You really need to be able to accept all the critics you can get, and just to go from there and keep writing. And again, your thinking has to be reflected in your writing. So if you don't think deeply about what you do, your writing will suffer as well. So I think thinking, writing, reading, the three, they go together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I find it very interesting that a scholar who has written a book on narrative inquiry and has won an award for said book doesn't consider herself a writer. I do think it's a little contradictory. It's creating some cognitive dissonance in me, but it's okay. I'm happy to live in contradictions, you know. But I do agree. I do agree that each writing, even when I do write too, each writing feels like a new beginning, and that blank space in which you're going to now put black and white printed mark of your thoughts. It's scary. It scares every time. I freeze every time myself too. So I hear you. I hear you. When you were writing your narrative inquiry book, or your dissertation, because I know those two things are pretty much like big babies. You know, the articles are babies too, but the dissertation is a big baby, and the narrative inquiry book is a big baby. You know, what?
I have two babies.
You have two babies. You know, two academic babies, some human babies, maybe a fur baby. Lots of babies. Student babies. You have student babies as well. So Mama Jeong-Hee. So many babies. When you were doing those writings, what was your practice of writing? Like, were you writing all the time? Were you blocking out certain times of the day? Do you have a certain location you went to? Did you drink a certain type of coffee, listen to some music? How did you put yourself in the space of writing?
I think finding your writing time is really important. For me, early in the morning when there's nobody, or, walking around and calling me or emailing me. I think I remember clearly what it was like to write my dissertation. The last year of writing my dissertation, I was working full-time at Arizona State University. And I got to think, oh my gosh, when am I going to find time to write my dissertation? Mm-hmm. If I'm working full-time, how am I going to do this? I freaked out. I thought that I was going to be a student forever. But what I did was that, okay, I'm going to get up very, very early. I had to be at work by 8 o'clock. So which means I'm going to get up like at 4 or 5, before 5, and get some writing done at least 2-3 hours every single day. That really helped me. And how did I make myself keep awake? Coffee. I drank a lot of coffee, just coffee, right? And plain coffee. And so that consistency really helped me finish my dissertation. And with my book writing, same thing. I thought that I was going to finish it within a year when I was doing my sabbatical. But after I came back from my sabbatical, I freaked out again. Okay, I have to teach again. I have to do service, and I have to do other things. I'm back to work. How am I going to finish my book? So again, I had to get up very, very early, finding that time and space early in the morning every day, or if not every day, at least 5 days a week. That consistency really helped me finish my book. Again, I think I said this to others as well. At the time, writing and my book writing was my everything. It was my lover, my husband, my baby, everything. I was really attached to that writing process. I don't know. I just put my heart to it because I was in it. I need to finish it. But I needed to be able to enjoy that process. I wanted to finish it because I wanted to, not because I have to, right? So every time I got home, I felt like I had something that was waiting for me. Like so I said, I think I said this. We were at K-State. We were having a mentoring lunch, and all of mentees or mentors asked to talk about what we were writing about at the time. And I said, it was before ARA time. I said that currently I feel like I'm having a love affair because I'm not writing my book. I'm writing my ARA paper that I have to present. So I was having a love affair. So, I mean, that, like, I truly felt that. I felt like I was abandoning my book writing to write ARA paper. So, and I really had to go back to my book writing. So I felt real close affinity with my book writing. So something, that kind of devotion and commitment. I mean, a lot of people who are working on PhD, they are working full time, and they think that, okay, I cannot finish my doctoral degree, I cannot finish my dissertation. But I would say, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You just have to carve out that time and commitment out of your daily life, and just make your dissertation writing be everything, I mean, I know your family is important. Yes, yes, yes. But having that kind of close attachment to your writing, I think, is very, very important. And you should be able to enjoy it. It's your baby anyway. So you should love it. You should really take care of that baby.
Yeah, no, I like that. It reminds me of, like if you get a small tree or a small plant, like the start of the dissertation or the proposal is that plant that now needs to grow, and you have to nourish and nurture and feed it and watch it and make sure it gets what it needs so it grows. And it's part of your environment. It's part of, your attention. It's part of your awareness that's what you have to do. That's a relationship you have with it. A lot of people forget that relationship part of it, or they think that relationship part of it is a punishment part. It's a punishing relationship. Speaking of punishing, if you can think about, what are some of the challenges that you remember experiencing when you were doing big projects like a dissertation or like a book, and what did you do to overcome or navigate them?
One of the biggest that I had was when, of course, time is time. Lack of time is one of the biggest challenges. But when I got stuck with ideas, I'm writing about things, and then I don't know where to go with it, and I feel like sometimes it's called writer's block as well, but it was not just a writer's block, but it was like not having a clear idea about what is that I need to write about, the next paragraph, or the following, to finish that chapter that I was working on. So then I feel like, okay, I tend to lose my confidence in writing. Okay, I cannot write anymore. Okay, this must be it. Should I give up? But I keep thinking about it, and then I keep thinking about, okay, what is it I need to do? How can I solve this puzzle? It's like a puzzle that I need to solve it. So I just spend a lot of time thinking about how I can solve this puzzle. It's like, again, Bodian's knot, right? That you cannot really, undo that knot. So you feel that sometimes, but I realized that if you think about that idea that you cannot solve long enough, actually there's nothing you cannot solve. Meaning that the more time you spend, I think you can really solve that issue by spending enough time on that. So I would say that don't give up. And it's like, and when you solve that problem, you get this epiphany, you get this joy. I think that's the beauty of writing. And I think that writing, especially academic writing, requires us to have certain writing skills, but certain thinking skills and certain skills about how to solve problems. I'm not a mathematician and I'm not good at math either, but it's like solving a problem that you are given. And there is some beauty about this solving problems. And it's like writing is like that. Mm-hmm. So again, if you don't have those struggles, I don't think you are writing enough, because you have to have certain argument to be able to write substantive work. Then what is your argument? So to get to that argument, you need to really think about a lot of complex issues and find ways to solve those issues. So writing is like solving a puzzle.
Your talk about writing makes me feel like a love affair for writing. I can sense your own love for writing, and I can sense this deep love for writing, and makes me feel like I wish I was just writing right now. I wish I was just trying to write right now and have all these thoughts that are in my head come out on paper. I was just thinking about like, when am I going to be able to write again? So with that, what I want to do is maybe if you can recommend like 3 key pieces that they can read from your work. So obviously they read narrative inquiry, and so they're going to have that in their, reading list already. They would have read that before they got here. So what are some of the key things that you think would be beneficial for them to read from your work?
From my work?
Yeah.
I have to say that my 2006 work that was published in, it's an open online journal, what is it? IJEA, International Journal of Education and the Arts. I love that piece. That was like my first really, that was done using theory of novel. I was using different stories, and I was able to, that piece actually, it took really a while to get that published. At first it had a lot of rejections, but because of those rejections, that piece became really strong, and I can be proud of it. So one of the issues that reviewers had about that piece before was that the researcher, the author, was trying to impose his or her ideas onto the reader. So I was thinking, okay, I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. I have something to say. To be able to do that, I have to be kind of strongly suggesting most to that. But that kind of writing was not really palatable to the readers, to the audience. So I really had to be modest and humble about my argument. And how do I do that? Actually, Bakhtin talks about this polyphony or carnival where everybody's voice, including the author's voice, has to be equal, treated equal. So I thought that my voice as an author had a stronger authority than my participants' voices. But I realized that I really need to treat my voice the same as my participant voices. So once I had that realization, I was able to solve this problem where I thought that my voice had more authority than my participants' voices. But then that theory, Bakhtin theory, helped me understand how I need to treat my voice the same as the participants' voices. So that puzzle was solved with that theory. So I really have strong attachment to that piece. And then
What is the title of the piece?
For Whom the School Bell Tolls.
Yes, I remember that. Okay, go on.
Yeah, that one. I mean, again, actually, the title. You really have to come up with a good title. So I was thinking. I remember how I came up with that title. I was at Barnes and Noble in Arizona, Tempe, Arizona, and I saw this poster by Hemingway. For whom the bell tolls, right? That okay, I'm gonna use that. So I added a school bell, right? So that I really love that piece. And another piece that I'm really fond of is Mato's story. It was published in 2012 at EP, Educational Philosophy and Theory, EP80. And so it talks about this one Sioux Indian boys, Bildungsroman, how Mato, his name was Mato, meaning grizzly bear. How Mato has turned into a really a student who wants to excel and succeed from once upon a time like gang member. So I like that piece a lot because I think I lucked out on that because my participant, he was a storyteller. He just kept talking and talking and talking about his life story, and I was able to write the story without toiling too much. But then how do I make sense of that story was really difficult. Again, that chapter 4 idea, discussion. So I had to read a lot, and I had to put theory. I used hermeneutical phenomenology for that. So again, reading really helped me to come up with that idea. So yeah, those two pieces I would highly recommend.
Do you have a third one?
Third one?
Yeah, 3. I want 3.
A third one. Let's see. Another piece of narrative, but I have to. Another story is Kevin Gonzalez story that was published in International Journal of Qualitative Studies in Education.
What year?
QSE.
Okay. What year?
What year? I think it was 2011. And
Kevin's journals?
Yeah, Kevin. I don't. Actually, I have to send you with the exact title.
Okay, that's fine. I will find you. I'm a researcher by trade. I know how to find your work. I'll find you. Well, this was great. This was so great, and you're so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
More than what I could have even imagined. So I think our students would really enjoy how much time you gave them generously. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.